Alright, ladies and gentlemen. Trial time. What will probably be our final trial segment. I'm excited. We got a lot of plot bombshells from the last session, so still a bunch of unanswered questions, but things are coming to a head. So we will see what Judge Jigoku has to say for himself. Oh, right into court, no preamble. Oh, fair enough. Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. He says that, but resolve, yes, that's my intention. My lord, if I may inquire, the defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asogi permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? He has admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting the judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma, whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume. Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing of Baroque Venzix. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls as the first witness to the stand. Bring Seishiro Jigoku into the courtroom. At last then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, wasn't it? Your subpoena. I did what was necessary. Ha 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 ha. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seishiro Jigoku, the Supreme Court Judge of the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am of course fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself. And now, I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to the turn of phrase. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this, and I'm sorry to say, I decline to comment. What? Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette. But my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon? This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right! And you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this truth to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Seishiro Jigoku was involved in this case? Telegram.
Take that!
This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. Hold it! You little... Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you? What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names could follow a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. K. Asogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim, J. Wilson, and the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector, Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan. were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. And the telegram that defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? Why is Asogi surprised about this, though? The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you! Judge Jigoku, what's this all about? If Asogi was never told about it beforehand, how would he know to be the assassin? That doesn't make sense. And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you've accepted the assassination mission. But the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you. You deliberately avoided saying the name. The defense claims these foreign names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? That's a look that says, I can't believe you're throwing me under the bus. His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information the court must hear about the alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of 31st October. Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. It's true that Kazuma Asogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. There was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. So you admit it then, as this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here. To use such a wordy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Asogi had a reason for taking his sword to the British inspector, you know. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Kazuma-sama? Judge Jigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. Wow. I wonder why he's not throwing Strongheart under the bus at this point. Because Strongheart's clearly throwing him under the bus. But he's sticking to his guns. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk. Because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barak Van Zeeks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister and high-ranking judge, such as the witness, could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall that there was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Wasn't it your words that we need to bring to light everything about the truth with regards to the organization of the Reaper? How soon you back away from that idea, Lord Strongheart? Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness.
Hold it!
A year ago, when Kazuma was still in Japan then. Correct. It was at the examination center for applicants for the study tour that I approached him. I'll never forget it. I remember exactly what you said. You just came out and asked me forthright if I considered traveling to Britain on an assassination mission. Surely not. I thought it was a joke at first, of course. But then, it was made clear to me that if I didn't accept, I wouldn't be considered for the study tour. So you agreed to it? Just for that? I mean, I know how much you wanted to study in England, but... assassination? The Empire of Japan had accepted a proposal of the British Empire at the time. Oh, I see. Okay. So Asogi doesn't actually know that much about the Reaper conspiracy beyond being, approached to be an assassin for hire. If I'm getting this right. He's not involved beyond this one incident that he was asked to do. So his objective to coming to to England was to investigate his father. That part's not a lie, I guess. And he just took the assassination mission because there was no other way he was going to make it over to Britain. Am I reading this right? I think I'm reading this right. An agreement to send a student from each country to the other to deepen cultural understanding and friendship. But behind the scenes, the chosen students were to be given assassination missions. I had no choice but to accept the proposal that originated from my British counterpart. Why? Why didn't you expose the plot there and then? Britain acknowledges no part in these alleged misbegotten dealings. I advise you not to make spurious allegations, Foreign Minister Jigoku. As a witness, I am bound to tell the truth, my lord. Oh, they're trading barbs now. You be careful down there, don't blow the lid on our plot. Well, you're throwing me under the bus. I don't feel very obliged to do so. Anyway, I picked Asogi and explained the details of the plan to him.
Hold it!
Why Kazuma? Why did you pick him as the assassin? He was the most capable of all the applicants, and in addition, I knew his desire to travel to Britain was very strong. In fact, it was almost more than a desire. It was his whole purpose in life. Yes, as his best friend, I can certainly attest to that. The way he threw himself into his studies, the way he pursued becoming qualified as a lawyer. It was all ultimately for that one single goal of being accepted on a study tour to Britain. And of course, you know the reason behind that. He was determined to find out for himself the truth about his father, Genshin Nasoki. There's nothing I wouldn't have done to get here. Be that agreeing to assume the role of an assassin, or betraying people's trust. Well, you certainly did a fine job of betraying mine, Nasoki. But why was Inspector Gregson the target? I have no idea. Those are the orders from Britain. I was in no position to question them. You have no idea? Really? I find that hard to believe. Oh, do you? Yoshikoku was once a visiting student here in Britain, himself, of course. Perhaps he has some connection with Inspector Gregson from that time. The defense really ought to catch up. With what? With the fact that the assassin exchange has absolutely nothing to do with the case under scrutiny here. Yes, I've already admitted to recruiting Asoki. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man wasn't able to carry out his mission.
Hold it!
I presume you're referring to the incident that occurred during Kazuma's passage to Britain in January? The awful tragedy that took place on the steamship. Word arrived at the ministry some 2 weeks after the ship's departure from our shores. The visiting student had been killed, but his body had somehow gone missing in Hong Kong. The news was wired to me from the detective I placed on the ship to accompany the assassin. Obviously, Kazuma didn't actually die at all, but he did lose his memory, including all details about his special mission. Did you not consider dispatching another assassin at that point? That wasn't possible, simply because that black-clad young student over there had already put himself forward as Asoki's replacement, and there was no way to stop him from reaching Britain. Ah! I accidentally thwarted it. My hands were completely tied. So Mr. Shom's strategy worked perfectly. He predicted everything that would happen. Months later, my memory returned, but I never intended to go through with the assassination mission anyway. So you were playing me right from the outset, were you? Is that it? I'd sooner be guilty of that crime than of taking someone else's life. I was prepared to do whatever I had to in order to get myself here to Britain. Okay, that makes more sense now. Yeah. I was curious about, there's no way he would actually be involved in the Reaper conspiracy and, be wanting to actually conduct the assassination, right? That doesn't make sense, given everything we know about him. So this makes a lot more sense. He just agreed to it, and he just to get here. Yeah, alright. This line of questioning has gone on long enough. All the court should be concerned about in the testimony given by this witness are details relating to his relationship with Inspector Gregson and the victim's murder. In that case, as I've already made perfectly clear, I have no connection to the man or his death. He has some means of substantiating this plea.
Hold it!
Outside your cabin in the first-class area of the SS Grouse, you mean? Yes, that's right. Not least because there was a murder of a student passenger earlier in the year, I imagine. The liner operators have taken the posting of crewmen outside every first-class cabin door. I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself. What do you mean? Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night, I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness's cabin. At that particular time, of course, I'd gone to the ship's dining room for dinner. The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us into the cabin while we waited for Judge Rikoku's return. I suppose Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witness's life. Exactly. As I've said numerous times now, I had no intention of killing anyone. So the crewman let 2 potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding. Not the most convincing of sentries, really. In truth, those were my thoughts too. But anyway, I stayed to talk with Inspector Gregson for a short while. And then I left him there, and made my way off the ship alone. Was the guard still at the door when you went? Yes. He glared at me as I walked past. You see? That proves it. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. Unfortunately for you, Judge Jikoku, I have evidence to the contrary. There was an evacuation drill at 10 p.m. Take that!
Objection!
Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jikoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. What? Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m., and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were together on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts. And during the 23-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jikoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime.
Objection!
A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in this cabin, unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Well, counsel? Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jikoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jikoku's cabin on the 31st of October? We don't have a photo of the cabin. We haven't investigated this. No, I realized. We picked it up last session and we didn't investigate it. You see these little things all over the place, don't you? It's the part on top of a pocket watch that you twist to set the time, isn't it? It's called the crown, I believe. A watch would be quite useless without one. A crown? Like what's the top of a monarch's head? That's a very grand name for such a tiny part. But actually... Yes, Mr. Naruhodo? If this is a crown, I have a feeling I might have seen a monarch around here somewhere with a very bare head. If by monarch you mean pocket watch, then I'm quite sure you have. Top one. What do you think, Mrs. Sato? I feel sure I know exactly what will fit you. Really, I was just thinking precisely the same thing. We're about to see that the little round component is actually part of Inspector Gregson's broken pocket watch. Really? I was just thinking precisely that too. A perfect fit. I knew it. Alright, perhaps you knew it. I'll make a note of this new information at once. Oh, there we go. There's the evidence.
Take that!
Judge Jikoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch. A pocket watch? And if you will observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke dead. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku. Well, your razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer?
Objection!
Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first. But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. Sorry? If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast. I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled. Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume. Yes, I do. Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st of October. Of course, as a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. Sure, you don't. Yeah, he's very, very sus now. I'm almost certain he did it. I mean, there doesn't seem to be anyone else who could have done it at this point. So it's probably gonna be him. Well, yeah, it's probably him. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an Ippon Seidro. He couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagined his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed, having returned to Britain, because his body was found in London. Ippon-sei? A common jujutsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take. So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. Ah! I've no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death. Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. But if this testimony holds, Judge Jigoku will be deemed to have no involvement in this case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here in a cross-examination. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo.
Hold it!
Because the so-called guard posted at the cabin door had just let your killer pass you. Apparently, Gregson told the crewman he was a police inspector, which was the truth, of course. He wouldn't have had his identification with him, though. He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced. But if the man accompanying him would have had 2 swords slung around his waist, what if it? You mean me? Who else? Yes, that's true. You would have hoped the sight of a few swords might have set off alarm bells at the guard's head. The point is, I left the cabin before its occupant returned, and I immediately disembarked the ship. Certainly, all I could tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back in my cabin. And you entered without any inkling or suspicion. That's right, none whatsoever.
Hold it!
Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson. Yes, though at the time I didn't know the man's name. And there was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners. By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose. That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction. But I've never seen the muzzle of a revolver shake about so much in my life. Anyone would think the man had never shot somebody before. Believe it or not, most of us haven't. Anyway, there was no time to call for the help of the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself.
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun, that was a very brave move, wasn't it? Ha 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 ha. My Ippon Soy is faster than a bullet, I can assure you. But surely all the commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't he? Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow, and just managed to slip past him to make his escape. The outstanding guard does it again. Luckily, there aren't many situations I can get out of using a quick Ippon Soy throw.
Hold it!
The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked. Preferable to the man's head being pulled off or his spine cracking, wouldn't you say? Not that the man was spared for long. A bullet to the chest soon saw to that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place. Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujutsu throw. Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin. Because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall. Ha 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 ha. What are you talking about? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin.
Hold it!
But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment to think that idea of yours true now, stripling. What? If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have got back to Britain? When people die, their bodies remain at that same spot. It's a devil of a thing. Well, then, obviously the culprit must have moved the body. How exactly? Carrying a corpse of a ship in your arms will raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? Well, yes, that's true, but... all passenger luggage is inspected when it is unloaded from arriving vessels. And I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. Wait a second though, he's didn't he say he avoided customs? That part was relevant information? Wow! That throwaway line. It was actually a sus line. Who knew? If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. Let's kill that idea then. But perhaps not. Mr. Sato. We've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them, which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. I think I ought to alter my testimony. With your consent, of course, my lord. I have no objections. State your amended testimony now. There's no possible way I could have transported the victim's corpse back to Britain. No wait, this is Gregson's trunk, not his trunk. Well, I don't have it in evidence. Yeah, I don't have it in evidence, so I guess I have to press it.
Hold it!
There's an idea. Think about it, Stripling. All passengers and crew disembarked at the same time and passed through the same checks at the border. The symposium guests were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. And we met you as soon as you arrived at the hotel. So you did. Well then, remind me. Did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time? Dude, when we met them, Gregson's body was right there in the lobby? That's messed up, yo. So we're in agreement then. I couldn't possibly have brought the inspector's body back to Britain. Unless, of course, they developed some clever device these days that instantly move things from A to B. Funny you should say that. Professor Harrigan's invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, of course. The defense has become unusually quiet, I notice. Yes, because there's really nothing more to say. So that's his story. Well, I suppose if you think about it, whenever you drop a teacup in the office and it breaks, you don't say, Mr. Naruhodo must have been murdered there, do we? Is that a veiled threat about what might happen to me if I break another one? And the fact is that Inspector Grex's body was found in a little room on Fresno Street. If he really was killed in Judge Yagoko's cabin, the body would have to have been moved somehow, obviously. Transporting a dead body over a country border, it would be impossible for the majority of people. So there must have been some special circumstances that made it possible for the culprit, and that could be a vital realization, I think, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, no, now is the time for evidence. The armband? Ah, yes. You, sir! You have your armband! As have I! You are a minister of the law. Therefore, you have special ministerial status. Yeah, I don't have his package with me. What do I present here? I know what the argument is. The argument is he didn't go through customs like everyone else did. So whichever one plus person saw he faked the guy. No, that's Gregson's. That's Gregson's passport, not Not Jigoku's. Oh shit, is this why we still have this photograph? Oh my god, bro! No, you're not allowed to backseat. This is a blind playthrough. We're figuring things out by ourselves. Dude! Inspector Gregson's body was right here all this time? Dude, that's messed up, yo! I don't like this photo anymore. Oh my god, that's hilariously messed up. Wow. Wow, holy shit. This... Can I just imagine his ghost hanging over the shoulder here, glaring at him? Oh my god. That's... that is definitely something. This photo has 5 people in it. It sure does. Positioning this if the stick is a little tricky. MODOK. Okay, let's not start.
Objection!
There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true. And what's that supposed to mean? Far from being impossible for you to do. The transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Jigoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. Well, all those passport checks and luggage searches at the border took rather a lot of time. I must say, I'm very envious of your ministerial status. You didn't have to go through any of that, did you? And Gregson's body is right there behind them. Oh my god. I cannot look at this scene the same way again anymore. It was just a nice, wholesome scene. And then, all this time, there was a corpse staring us in the face in the background. That is messed up. Ah, I knew you were jealous. I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku. It's a photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside. But, Mr. Naruhodo, surely you're not suggesting... I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us, inside Judge Jigoku's trunk. Order! Order! Order in court. I'm skeptical, counsel, that a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. It could. Because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside his trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple. Wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku? But inside his trunk? How horrifying! And after we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, we had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street. Taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gori, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. She's acknowledged that there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are. But one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated coal rooms to keep food fresh in their long sea voyages, and the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Shikoku? However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour. What are you talking about now? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already. Judge Shikoku, please! Stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There's really no need for me to respond, is there? Why ever not? Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. The prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street where the gunshot was heard. As the accused, Barak Van Zieks shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at this time, the defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how logical reasoning the British are known for really works, young stripling. The victim was shot in their little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. That's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you had better explain yourself to the court, don't you? The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. But this evidence clearly contradicts that claim. No, that's Clint's autopsy report. Do we present the updated autopsy report here? No, it just says indeterminate before really no. Shot at the chest at close range from the front, resulting in instant death. Scorch marks at point of entry. Bullet had exited the body from behind. Huh. You know, I don't actually know this one immediately. Is it the trunk? There is dried blood here, but I don't know if that tells us that. Therefore, it's been around for a while. Because we already knew this bloodstain was old, right? Am I missing something? October, parcels of paper is found. And there's the gash here that we still haven't explained. side of considerable force. And there's the chunk of metal in there. His eye was broken. No, the case isn't telling me anything else here. Gotta figure this out. Yeah, this one's a tricky one. Also, the face really is badly cracked. Little Rose needs transfiguring, winding up for 10 days without fail. Okay, no new evidence here on the pocket watch. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. The prosecution's claim that's the only fairy tale here. And the claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. He was shot in that room and died instantly. Maybe it's the died instantly part we need to figure out. No. That's part of the autopsy report as well. You know, we haven't actually done anything else with the murder weapon. The type of revolver that's standard issue for members of the judiciary. Ask for the records account about who they issued to. So that for the past 5 years, they've been engraved with a unique serial number. As far as I can tell, there's nothing like that on this gun. Which tells us that it must have been issued longer ago than that. Okay, so it's a much older gun. That's new information, but I don't know if that helps us any. The only thing I can think of here that contradicts the claim is the autopsy report. Since it says, like, you know, time could have been tampered with. But that doesn't seem right. That seems like a claim we've already made. Well, I guess we'll try it first.
Take that!
That wasn't it. It's not the autopsy report. Was the victim killed in the room on Fresno Street or was he moved there after his death? There's one piece of evidence we have that shows the answer to that question surprisingly clearly. Okay, so we're looking for evidence that the body was moved. Okay. We got ourselves a hint. We need evidence that the body was moved. Is it the fact that he's curled up? I mean, that seems like a leap of logic. It's a bit conjecture. But I guess you could argue that his body was dumped out like that in the same curled up position. Oh, because of rigor mortis? He died rigor mortis in that position because he died in that, like, he died and then he was put into the trunk, and then the trunk was put inside the freezer, and so the suitcase, so that pose was what he encountered rigor mortis in. That's what we're gonna argue. Okay, that's a little more convincing. Yeah, I know. I still think it's a bit of a leap of logic because it's not like proof, you know. It is equally, it's just offering an alternative explanation, you know. But it's just as like it doesn't disprove Asogi's argument. Yeah, that's the thing. Because he could just as easily argue that no, he just died and he fell over and died in that position. Yeah, I mean, why not? Or he could also just argue that somebody shifted the body and, like, accidentally moved the body or something. Like, you know, maybe he got shot at the front. Maybe he doubled over, curled up, and fell over, you know? There's conjecture here. All I'm saying is that in real life, I would not be confident in arguing this as, like, a definitive proof. I think this is more of a... It supports my idea, but it doesn't disprove the idea. But okay, this is what I guess this is what we're going to be arguing, so fine enough. A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed. Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. I mean, is it? Whatever. Objection. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. You could easily have adopted that fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
Objection!
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Shikoku, but it's your logic that is flawed. What? According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less been able to draw himself into that position. Ugh. I mean, really? I don't know. Chat. Open question. What do you guys think? Maybe I've just been... Maybe I've never actually seen a real... I mean, obviously, I've never seen a real person die from a gunshot and fall over. But... I've definitely seen... Okay, this is gonna sound stupid. But I've seen player entities ragdoll like that before. I don't know if that's proof of anything. I mean, I know video game physics aren't like real physics. But watch more action movies. yeah, but like, you see, that's the point though. I mean, you could die, you could fall down onto your knees and then fall over, right? That's not an inconceivable way for somebody to ragdoll, right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all I'm saying is that I don't know I fully buy it. Because what they're arguing is that if the autopsy report says... What they're saying is, if the autopsy report says that the person died instantly, the only position that they could be found in is straight down on their back, or straight forward, or straight down on their side, or whatever, you know? Like, there's no way the knees can be bent. You know, like, I don't know, could you not fall forward onto your knees and then topple over? Is that not a conceivable way for a human body to ragdoll when on death? I don't know. Is it just me, chat? I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's just me. Maybe this is intuitive enough for everyone else. I mean, I get what the game is going for, but I just don't buy it. I wouldn't buy it personally. Not as definitive proof anyway, but alright. Let's not spend too long on this. Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting the inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival on Fresno Street. before it was coldly turned out on the floor. From the inside of a large travel trunk. No, you're quite right. The shape of the body. It looks exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space. Judge Shikoku, present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Ugh. Present my trunk. I refuse. What? On what grounds? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment, just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Shikoku, there is blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have privileges that allow me to... At this moment, you're not a government minister. You're a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are, or what your status outside this courtroom might be, you will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. Order! Order in court! Well, Mr. Jigoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it! Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Asogi? What? Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk. Exactly as postulated by the defense. He's gonna deny actually killing him though, huh? What? You... Dear God. Outrageous. So it was you! You admit to Inspector Grex's murder? No! I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which is left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it into Britain with me, and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny it! If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life. Oh! That's right! Who else could have been? It was you, Kazuma Asogi. Oh jeez, everyone's throwing everyone under the bus now. You. I never thought you'd stoop to this, Seishiro Jikoku. You've taken the words straight out of my mouth. Prosecutor Kazuma Asogi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could put the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission, no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more. I don't believe this. Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Asogi. This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. It comes down to Jigoku, or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well. The defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Shikoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Asogi is... impossible. Judge Shikoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claim that logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process. It is. No question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit the crime. What? The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is that it allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asogi's involvement? Murder's weapon that was found at the scene. There's no ID number on it. Therefore, it is not Asogi's.
Take that!
Making the evidence weep here, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Oh, what? Come on! Every piece of evidence has a role to play in arriving at the truth. They're not playthings you can toss around the courtroom for entertainment. What? Come on. No? Never mind the evidence. You're about to make me weep, Miss Naruhodo. Dramatic moment ruined. Bwah, bwah, bwah. Man, I thought that would be it for sure, though. There's no ID on it. Asogi was, like the murder weapon used to shoot him has no ID on it, so it's an older pistol. Asogi, if he did get a pistol from the judiciary, his is new, so there would be an ID number on it. So it can't be him, right? No? That logic doesn't hold? Alright. I can't upset Sato-san, I'll end up being upset too. Alright, let's try it again. Now the crew was on sentry duty instead of first contact evidence. As long as the guard was there, it would have been impossible to fire a shot without it being heard. It very much narrows down when the crime could have been committed. I guess we're just supposed to say that it could only have happened during that time period and he already left.
Take that!
This itinerary for crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is conclusive proof. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Jigoku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Oh! And Asogi wasn't there anymore. Got it. Now, clearly the murder could only have been committed by somebody who was aboard the vessel at the time. But Prosecutor Asogi stated in yesterday's proceedings, I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life. So I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. Well, see, the reason was Asogi already testified that he already left the ship, you know? So I thought that wouldn't be enough proof. Because it felt like they were saying, no, he actually... Oh, wait, no. The conjecture was that he killed him before he left the ship. Right? Okay, I got it. Because we can take it for a fact that he left the ship because he has records at the inn that he stayed. So what they were saying... So what Jigoku was saying wasn't that Kazuma lied and he was on the ship at night. But rather that he killed him earlier in the day. Got it. Okay. I got a little bit mixed up by his words. which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof. The Kazuma Asoki couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. Gah! Hold it! No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy is just saying that to exonerate himself. He can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship. Just waiting for his chance to come back and finish the... No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify, and undeniable proof. No, There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer, as a common man. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it? Seishiro Jigoku. It was that damn trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already. Ah! Oh, he broke another witness stand. Damn. It's over! My life. It's over. You will pay for that, right? A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that, he decided to recruit Mr. Asogi. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. And you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement. Because I was already on my way to Britain at the time, in Kazuma's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume. That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain. So I enlisted the help of my British counterpart. And made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? The Reaper? But there's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. Ah! So, that means that the assassin exchange was... It was all planned by the Reaper! I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and beautifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. But it was all a trap designed to lead him to France, and his own death. Oh, how awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him the time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting. For the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock, I had intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came round and went for me in a reckless move. I'd received a British-issued gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So, the revolver belongs to you, does it? Look at him acting like he doesn't know. Yeah, I am surprised though. Why isn't Jigoku throwing him under the bus? He clearly has nothing else to lose at this point. And the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grouse. Which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street. The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up on deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room. And then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police. I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, he must have known. He must have intimate details of Inspector Greggson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon, in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit, so I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. That must have been just after we took this photograph of you at the hotel then. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. This is now a really cursed photo, it really is. And also, wow, okay, so... It wasn't even the Reaper's conspiracy's intention to frame Van Zeeks then. They wanted to frame Daily Vigil. It was just bad luck that Van Zeeks was there. And now they're scrambling to adapt the plan, huh? I conceived of the candle trick there and then. So I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case. So I put that on. Although I suspect I drew more attention to myself than that would have otherwise. The hairpiece we found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for the red-headed leak investigation. I only arrived at the room at around 4:45, so I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later. So that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap. Except, at the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into its pocket the following morning, but... well, it seems the warmth of the heat cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. Chad, you know what I just realized? We've had the other witness is the true murderer. And then we've had the prosecutor is the real murderer. And then we've had the detective is the real murderer. And then we've had the police chief is the real murderer. But you know what? This is the first time. This is the first time the judge is the real murderer. Admittedly, not of the case he's presiding over, but a judge was the true murderer. And he was actually acting in his capacity as a judge at some point in this game. That's a first. I've heard enough. We've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. He's also the franchise's first named judge. Wasn't there that judge in Investigations That one female judge. Although I guess did she act as a judge in a case, or was she just a judge? Maybe that's that distinction, I guess. An exchange of assassins. What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough! I've already told you that I cannot say. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. What are you waiting for? Can't we get this over with now? It's finished. All of it. I'm finished. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Guilty! Seishiro Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found. Guilty! And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. So I guess that's it then. Van Zieks goes free. He's been exonerated. Hooray! The end. Right? Everything's been answered for. Right, chat? That's the end of Great Ace Attorney 2. That's it. We're all done. Good. Let's all pack up and go home. Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and a subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt. Oh, wonderful! Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, thank you. Is something wrong? Just a little trouble. By his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey in this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries. However, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries. As a prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for the formal adjudication. I hereby declare the defendant, Baroque Van Zieks.
Objection!
Guilty! The prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel? The accused's innocence hasn't been fully established at all. And therefore, it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. But what? But Judge Jigoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Baroque Van Zieks has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku. But it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot. Oh. Kazuma still believes in his heart of hearts that Van Zieks is the Reaper, huh? Like, Van Zieks ordered Seishiro to do it to Gregson, huh? I think that's gonna be his angle. And yeah, okay, I guess that's why Jigoku didn't throw Strongheart under the bus. He still has some dirt on him, or something. Into this sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but... So what I want to know is, who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? the victim went to France, having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly, that would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Baroque Van Zieks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? What? Order! 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 The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Counsel. Are you suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case? Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zieks very thoroughly in that regard, and they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself, which means you now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised at quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zieks. And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zieks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well. Boss is extremely irregular. I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. He's not trying very hard to avoid the topic. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he had with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Foot! Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesy, as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation hasn't soured the contents of my hallowed chalice. Lord Van Zieks! I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now, and ever since that time, I've endured the weight of implied guilt that's gone with it. So I welcome the chance to testify now, and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense? Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous, and Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment. He's not thinking logically. You're right that he's not himself, but I knew it would be like this, and I came here today determined to face him through whatever might arise, as a lawyer and as his friend. And that's what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. As you wish, my lord. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the assassin exchange. So you deny all accusations by the prosecution, both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey, and that you masterminded the assassin exchange. I acknowledge that the public at large believes me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone am in a position to forswear. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes. Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? A desire to uncover the truth. Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty. From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. The contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. I know which one it is. Most of this is the same as the initial testimony he made, isn't it? Right? These first three lines are the same as his initial denial of killing Gregson. He's just explaining how he
Hold it!
But this is new. There is a link between you and Gregson. Of course, we were close acquaintances. We'd worked on numerous cases together. I consider the man to be a mentor of sorts. He taught me a number of important lessons. He did? Such as what? Where to buy good fish and chips, and such like. Well, that was convincing. Dr. Wilson was a coroner, of course, but that was some time in the past. And in any case, I understand it was several years ago now that he was invited to work at a Japanese university. That's right. He was a visiting professor at the Imperial Yumi University in Tokyo. It should be unambiguously clear then that no link exists between myself and him. In other words, I had no motive for sending some assassin across the oceans to kill the man. It sounds plausible enough, and I want to believe it, but something about this just doesn't quite sit right with me. No common thread, eh? Guess we present the autopsy report here, this one?
Objection!
Yeah. What is this? An autopsy report? Wait, this is 10 years old. From the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. What? My brother's autopsy report. I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Order in court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report to your counsel? This. The autopsy report of the professor's final victim. There's an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again. The professor. I've personally researched all the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victim's souls. And for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zeeks, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead. Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the proceeding. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying movements, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave the vital clue behind. Indeed, that was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes, and the conclusive evidence that convicted him, and enabled Lord Van Zixia to avenge his brother's senseless death with a marvelous victory in court. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Could the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death? That's outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. Which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Order! Order at once! 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer, to be sentenced to death. But it was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I'd prove it. Which is why I had to come to Britain. Whatever the cost. You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nipponese tenacity of purpose here. However, he who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma. You know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in the trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence. That's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence. What? As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seishiro Jigoku. But my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? The truth about the evidence. And he acknowledged what I've already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago. What? A secret? I know nothing of any secret. While we waited for my supposed remark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword, Karuma, before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Right, I see. You're that Asogi's young lad, are you? And what? You're gonna cut me down with that thing, is that it? That will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor. There's no doubt in my mind. But unfortunately back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admit it then. The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated. It was for the good of the country. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak! I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it. That's right. Even then. So that's when the tip of the sword broke. Oh, Kazuma-sama. But the results of Clan Van Zeek's autopsy were fabricated. And the investigating officer, Gregson, and the lead coroner, Wilson, must have known about it. And he can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Baroque Van Zeeks. But, hang on. He was a last-minute addition, wasn't he? Doesn't that indict male Strongheart? In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly. And as was established earlier, it has to have been the Reaper himself, the liars of Jigoku in Japan, to arrange the exchange. Ah! So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Baroque Van Zeeks. I guess Strongheart realizes it's too late to try and put an end to the proceedings. So he's just gonna... Alright, you know what, Van Zeeks? I'm throwing you under the bus. Kazuma Sogi. What? What you've just told the court. Are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission. In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper. What? Lord Van Zeeks? I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. If Lord Van Zeeks isn't the one behind all this, then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. I believe I know who it is too. You... I just had a feeling this name was going to come up. The true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey is... Eugene Mikoto! Barricade! Herlock Sholmes, he's the Reaper. Peppino is the Reaper. Huh? Hey, capo.
Take that!
The only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy results is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mail Strongheart. What? No, Strongheart? Yes, it's true that 10 years ago the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court, but he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, had been killed. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zeeks, 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession, but I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the Lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined, all the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now, I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the Inspector and the Coroner to break the law 10 years ago. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seishiro Jikoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey. Leg! The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal? Don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself. You claim there was some wrongdoing of Lord Clint Van Zeek's autopsy. That's utterly untrue.
Objection!
But I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it. And where's your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now. Unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. Hang on. Let me get on the phone. Hello, Miss Ami Faye. Did I tell you about Baroque's leg maneuver in Godo? Is there actually some link behind it? You mean to say... I forget how the system works in your little backwater country. But in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Ah. Order! Order in the court! Following Inspector Gregson's murder and in light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events of 10 years ago. Is there? So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. This court has no business raking over the course of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accuser brought by the prosecution and defense is categorically denied. I take it there are no objections. Kazuma, he's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what happened all those years ago? If only there was someone who could testify about Clint Van Zeek's autopsy. He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks, even so far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence. And Dr. Seif won't say anything against Strongheart. But there's still one ray of hope.
Objection!
Wait, Godo was supposed to do the leg slam? Oh, that's funny. Actually, there is one person. One person who could still testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me! Kazuma, Please! This trial can't end! Not yet! I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. The person the defense would like to call to the stand to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zeek is... Gossip!
Take that!
Heaven help us. Another Japanese. An expert in forensic medicine, my lord. Professor Eugene Mikotoba. 16 years ago. He came to London of Seishiro Jigoku and Genshin Asoki as a visiting student. And what could his testimony possibly tell us? Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report. Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries a signature. It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us. The defense's demand is denied. What? But Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes. No, of course he's not going to agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself. Prosecutor Asogi, let me refresh your memory, as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the reaper and of masterminding the assassin exchange. I did, yes. So present your evidence for those claims, and make your case complete. At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence. But that's exactly why we need witness testimony. The professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Asogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, this court has already reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by a Japanese Supreme Court Judge Seishiro Jigoku. As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities.
Objection!
But we all know what will happen. That'll just give the mastermind of the whole venture time to cover his tracks again. By which you mean me. Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Asogi, you will be remanded following these proceedings. Willingly, I trust, since you gave your word. This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Asogi. That will be all. I hereby declare this trial to be over. Court is... Hold it! Sherlock Holmes to the rescue! Mr. Sholmes! This is no place for amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to the general public. You will leave the courtroom at once.
Objection!
Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seishiro Jigoku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Lord Mayo Strongheart, it's imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage. Is it really? And why would that be? You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question. If I may. We will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be that the shock of being accused of being the reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, can it? The whole truth, sir, has already been uncovered. It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows, should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along to the provocations of your superiors. Order! Order in court! It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practices. A door that is ajar. Let us emerge from the shadows of the Reaper's decade-long ascendancy. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push this door open now. The auditors in the gallery have no rights to express an opinion on court proceedings. Silence! He's right. The judge has absolute authority here. Yes, if he calls the trial to an end, it must end. What would that really do? I sense dark things occurring behind the scenes. Dark things indeed. Is there a single person here present who can honestly say you've done the same? What's... The trial should go on. Summon the witness! That's right. We need to clear us up before the young Japanese fellow is remanded in custody. My lord, you assured those present that you would uncover the whole truth here. Vindicate yourself of this outlandish accusation. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's the very foundation of British law. A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gallery. On with the trial! On with the trial! Well, my lord, you hear the voice of the British justice at table. I think you'll find it will be rather awkward to silence. The court will recess briefly. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena of the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives at the courthouse, we shall reconvene. A recess won't be necessary, my lord. Pardon? Mikotoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he has been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikotoba is here in this courthouse! Mr. Sholmes, you didn't notice what happened, did you? My dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, surely. I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, you know. Well, I must thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. Trust you have Iris' little lucky charm with you. Absolutely. It's still in my pocket. She sends her regards. And a reminder, if you find yourself at a dead end, the gears are at your disposal. Just one talk, if you please. Oh, of course. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Bailey, show the witness to the stand. So it's Lord Strongheart. He's the Reaper of the Bailey. Where exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deep I am about to be plunged into the blackness of the abyss. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of this maelstrom and confront whatever horrors it tries to drown me under. To be continued. Oh boy, chat. We're in the end game now. Next part will be my last. Alright. Wow. I can't believe we're almost here. Almost at the finale. And what a trip it's been. Alright, chat. Tune in tomorrow. Very long tail epilogues will be prepared. Alright. We might start a little earlier tomorrow in that case, then. But yeah, tune in tomorrow for the finale to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Yeah, see you there.